Well, here we are again. So, BBC decided to mess with me again. I wasn't intending to devote a video on this, but honestly, this is different enough from the last very recent time they decided to do stuff with it. Well, I say decided. Here's the thing. This is distinctly different from the last time I had trouble with the BBC. And ultimately, the point of this video is not to be grousing about that, though I am going to do that. The main purpose of this video is actually to explain why my review for the Doctor Who special Wild Blue Yonder is currently in the state that it's in, and why it will remain so here on YouTube. So if you saw that review within the first three and a half weeks that went up, congratulations. You saw the review as it was intended. You watch it now, it's going to be a little rougher, a little choppier. Some thoughts are going to seem incomplete, or it's going to seem like I jump topics out of nowhere. And it's going to be visually a lot less interesting. Here's why that happened. So the BBC claimed footage from the episode Wild Blue Yonder on that video. Now, this is different from what happened with my review on the Star Beast. There's the video where I talked about everything that went on there. But long story made short, that one was actually blocked. And by every indication that I can tell, what happened there, and I can't be 100% certain about this because you can't actually get a hold of anybody involved, but the way that it happened and the way that it ultimately resolved, to me, says that it got blocked by accident and it was resolved fairly quickly because it got blocked on the basis of having footage from The Giggle, which obviously it didn't. That episode hadn't aired yet. But they ended up claiming just part of the credits that I showed when I was praising the credits. So the thing was that I'm fairly positive what happened was they had uploaded The Giggle into YouTube's copyright system and said, if you find footage from this, block it. And probably in an effort to stamp out any potential leaks of the episode early. Unfortunately, that would have had the opening credits in it. So when they saw I had some of the opening credits in something that had been fed into YouTube's system saying, block this if you see it, suddenly my video was blocked. Now, as I said, I did get that resolved. And that was partially due to not fully thinking through what they were doing on the part of the BBC, because they should have clipped out the credits to avoid that kind of issue, but also just because of the broadsword approach that YouTube's system has towards these things. But that was resolved. This was different. This was a claim on every single bit of footage that I used. And it wasn't a block. They were claiming it and taking the revenue. So the difference is nobody suddenly couldn't get access to it. But suddenly the money that it was making wasn't going to me. It was going to the BBC. Now, BBC has claimed stuff and claimed revenue from me before in the past and not resolved it on a appeal, which I also did here, and they denied. Now, the last time this happened to me was, I don't know, 4 years ago? 3-4 years ago? Something like that. And that was on a video that actually wasn't even about Doctor Who, but I brought up some stuff regarding Bill, and they claimed it because of the footage. It was a very small percentage of the video, but they did it anyways. Now, the thing in that case was I knew the problem was because the clip I used was too long. General rule of thumb, and this has served me well for a long time with the BBC, is if an individual clip is under 10 seconds, they leave you alone. Now, that's not a legal thing. That's not a case of, if it's under 10 seconds, they are not allowed to copyright claim you. No, they are. But as a general rule, most copyright holders, I find most of the large business IP holders at any rate, if it's under 10 seconds, any given clip, they've set up the bots to ignore it. And that's been the case with the BBC, and that's worked for me for a long time. But here, they didn't just claim long clips, because first of all, I didn't have anything over 10 seconds. I make a point of not using anything over 10 seconds. But they claimed it anyways. And it wasn't just one thing. It was everything. Now, I have no way of knowing if this was done manually, if this was something done by accident as part of an automatic system. I will never be able to know. All I know is that they claimed huge swaths of the video and were taking the revenue from it and denied my appeal. Now, I could have taken it further. I could have disputed it. But the thing is, if they didn't give in to that, and I talked about this in the video about the last time, if they didn't give in to that, that could have meant a copyright strike against me, and I would have had to have been prepared to actually go to court over it, which I cannot afford to do. So I had to back off and start trimming it, because you can just upload a whole new version of the video, but because they were claiming everything and not just one thing, it seemed like, okay, well, and not to mention, if you do that, you get rid of your old one, upload a new one, the views, the comments, etc., they don't carry over. You have wiped out whatever you originally put up on there. So I didn't want to do that, and I went in and I started trimming. What I realized, unfortunately, was initially, like, I trimmed this. Cool. They claimed another part. Trim that. Claimed another part. Claim. And eventually I realized I just had to cut out virtually every moment in which I had any footage whatsoever from the episode. Now, this is where the jankiness of YouTube itself enters the picture, because YouTube's sort of back-end tools that you can use to do some minor edits to your video, they're not especially sophisticated. I don't necessarily expect them to be as sophisticated as like my editing suite that I use, but there's a very basic, simple thing that could have solved a lot of problems here. When you're editing a video that's already been uploaded to YouTube's system on their back end, which is what you have to do to trim stuff out and not lose comments, views, etc., there is a trim tool to cut stuff out. Even though the system registers and can tell the difference between an audio and a video track, you cannot edit those separately. The reason that matters here is because most of the clips that I used were not just a clip inserted. There were a couple of those where I wanted to like show the line reading or something that I was referring to, but most of it was me showing the moment as I described it, meaning the audio was me, but the video was from that episode of Doctor Who. And if YouTube allowed you to edit the video and audio tracks separately, I could have just cut the video out. It would have been black for the course of that, which wouldn't have been good, but it would have left the points that I made and the things that I said intact, and so the end result wouldn't be a jumbled mess. It would just have some visual blanks. But YouTube doesn't let you edit those separately, so my only option was to cut it all out. So that's why the video is in the current state that it is. It is still possible to see the full video, but I have had to opt to make that a Patreon exclusive, which I've never had to do before. I've never had to do an edit like this and then put the actual original intended version of the video only available on Patreon, because Patreon now has it where you can upload full videos there. You used to, like a couple years ago, only be able to link to videos uploaded elsewhere. That's not the case. So I uploaded the entire thing to Patreon, and my supporters there at any tier can see the whole thing. And it really ticks me off, because I make a point of not gatekeeping or pay gating, rather, my content. There are perks to the Patreon. There's a Patreon exclusive Discord. You get to see the docket for what I'm working on at the start of each month. You get to, well, obviously you get to comment. You get to contact me about stuff if you have direct questions. There are polls for if I'm considering a few different ideas. There are perks, but actual content, I have never want that to be gated. But I've had to. I now effectively have to gate a director's cut of this video because the BBC, I don't know what, and YouTube is a terrible system. And like, YouTube is legitimately bad. Like, these are very simple to fix problems. This should not be difficult to be able to edit those tracks separately. But they don't implement it, and they won't, because they don't have to, because they're effectively a monopoly. I can't rely on going somewhere else and making the revenue that I make on YouTube. So I'm stuck here, regardless of how bad it is. Now, I know that some people are no doubt going to go on the thing. Well, I bet you they're doing it because of the warning you have in front of your videos and the notice that you make about the BBC News and the transphobia. And here's the thing. I still don't believe that to be the case. I'm pretty positive it wasn't the case the last time because, as I said, that was an automated systems issue when they blocked one before. While I don't know why this time happened, unless it starts happening to my other videos about Doctor Who, unless this becomes a regular problem, something that they do repeatedly, I'm still disinclined to think that this is targeted because of my criticism of the BBC as an overall organization, and in particular its news arm. If they wanted to target me because of that, they wouldn't be doing it on just one video. And more to the point, if they actually wanted to hurt me, they would have done it on the more recent videos. I've had 2 review videos for Doctor Who go up since this, and they ignored those and went after this one, which had already peaked and was largely done accumulating whatever number of views it was going to get. It was going to be a drip feed from here on out. So no, I don't think that's what's going on. If I start dealing with this problem on a bunch of other Doctor Who reviews, yeah, sure, I'll put that on the table and consider maybe that's what they're doing. But I don't like to be conspiratorially minded, and as angry as I can get, I try not to hold unfounded grudges or an unfounded level of bitterness. I don't believe I am targeted. If I ever have actual reason to believe that, trust me, I'll say it, but I don't. I don't think the BBC knows or cares about what I do. I just don't. I don't have an explanation as to why this happened, unlike the last time it did, where I have what I feel very confident is an accurate guess of what happened there. This time, I don't know. I don't freaking know. But this, as I said, is mostly here just to explain why that video is now in the hacked up and emaciated condition it's currently in. Because I had to cut nearly 25% of that video. That video was over 41 minutes. Now it's just under 32. So yeah. I just needed to vent a little bit about that and give an explanation for the state of the thing. If I could have inserted something at the front end of that and be like, hey, here's why it's like that, I would have done that. But again, the editing capabilities of the back end of YouTube are minor. There isn't a lot you can add. It's basically built around subtracting stuff because it was pretty much built to theoretically deal with copyright stuff. Oh, look, we'll just cut out the bit that had the copyright claim, and then we'll leave your video alone, which, I mean, that's more than we used to have. I'll grant you that. But the tools are deeply inefficient, especially since they seem to operate on the premise that, well, if you have a video, you must be using the audio. No. A lot of it was me talking, my voice. And while I wouldn't have loved it happening on a black screen, I would have preferred that to what it now is, where 25% of my thoughts are just gone. Because I did my best to try and leave it in a state that is more or less coherent. So there were entire segments I had to cut out where, no, the segment that I cut wasn't all footage, but where maybe introducing the thought was done underneath some footage. So now explaining what I'm even talking about is gone. So I can't just leap into the middle of the thought, or maybe my concluding thought is gone. So I would have to remove that whole section. When I say 25% is gone, that doesn't mean that 25% of the video had footage from the episode. That means that in order to make something even vaguely approaching coherent, and it's barely that at this point, I had to cut that much to not only remove the footage, but to cut around whatever now made no sense because whatever I was saying during bits with footage was gone. So there we go. I rambled on a little longer than I meant to, but this was just an update. And yeah, BBC's a pain in my butt, and it is exacerbated by insufficient and broken systems at YouTube. I'm not here to defend the BBC. They're a pain in my rear end, and they are more than happy to abuse the copyright system that YouTube has in place as are many copyright holders. But YouTube also just has a busted ass system that they are big enough that they don't have to make it better. There isn't really a reasonable competitor. So I'm stuck with it. Anyways, how's your new year going so far? Well, I say that. I might actually get this out the day before the new year. Well, how did your 2023 wrap up? Because this was mine. I spent 3 days fixing this. Whatever. Anyways, whatever your thoughts are on any of this, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and is now the only place where you can see the original version of that video. I'm sorry that that's the case, but it is. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe. They all are helpful, but don't worry too much about it. What I really want you to remember is that you are beautiful, you are valid, and you are loved. You are the council. I'm just running the meetings and dealing with the BS. And until next time, this council is adjourned. Time for me to thank my highest supporting patrons. Robin Moore, Zubin Lafula, Goddess Elida, Oliver B, to rock the thing that goes doink in the anime, Ruth, Goes with the Gazarian, Solitary Pictures, Ulrich Bogdan, Geek Filter, Melinda Walters, Toku BL Hubian, Jen, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Renabi Likes the Poodle, Robin Powell, T Love, Tracy Scrappett, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Quite Bearish, Rosalind Bennett, Pao Barabajagal, I'm sorry for whatever butchery I did to that, and Mira G. I know I've kind of done like funky stuff saying them the last few times. I had this whole idea where I was gonna like sing them to the tune of Carol of the Bells, but then I realized it's gonna like clash with my outro music, and I didn't really want to rework that or just cut the outro music out altogether. That felt weird, so I just didn't do a thing this time. But now I've told you that I didn't do a thing, so I've made a thing about there being no thing. Okay. Thanks for sticking around. Bye.